The USS Pollux ran aground during World War II with their full payload of ordnance on board. It's always been known that there's still ordnance remaining at the wreck sites, but the full extent and the numbers of what was down there has never really been confirmed.
My understanding was that they were doing a transit. They were doing their submarine evasion, and they gone into some terrible fog, took a bad fix, and with the adverse weather, they were in a storm, ended up on the rocks. And in the middle of the night, and that's how it came to be.
There were several casualties. The topography in that area is it's cliff faces, so there's no beaches or easy access to land. When the ships ran aground, a lot of the sailors either drowned or were swept up against the cliff face. And so a couple of summers ago, there were some civilian dive agencies that went out and took some pictures that seemed to indicate that the amount and size of the ordnance that was remaining was greater than what was previously thought. And so they requested that the military go down and take a look. So through the tasking channels, FDUA was tasked with sending a recce team up there this past summer.
When we came up on it, first we had to find it. We had the general location. We sent down a couple divers. We were unsuccessful initially at finding the wreck, just because we were going off Latin longs. We ended up putting in the dream team, myself and one other diver. And we found the wreck and the ordnance. And it was basically like, if you've ever been to Newfoundland, the cliffs. And so that is exactly what the terrain is underwater as well. So you have to get into the cracks, the crevices. Once we found one piece of the ship, then we started finding ordnance, guns, bullets, bombs, projectiles. So we have a bunch of equipment that assists us, one being an underwater sonar scanning, but just due to the terrain, it was difficult to project because we were only seeing the rocks. The one thing that assisted the best was the visibility at this time of year. It was like diving in a glass of water. So we ended up just doing massive circle searches. Initially we were way too deep, and then we progressively moved closer ashore. We ended up just hitting the mother lode on that third dive. So we determined that we had a debris field. So the next thing is to do a top-down recce. So you're gonna go down, basically swimming your lanes and identifying how much ordnance is there. And then individually you'll go down and measure the ordnance size, if you can get any nomenclature, and really just start breaking down the numbers, sizes, and basically what direction are we gonna be searching next.
We did an inventory of all the ordnance that we could find. We constructed some search areas, and we went in and completely swept the areas that we planned to. So within those search areas, we know for sure where and what the ordnance is. There's some bigger aircraft bombs. 19 of those were found of like varying sizes. Other than that, there's hundreds of small arms rounds and kind of smaller projectiles. But for the purpose of this operation, the focus was on locating as many of the bigger aircraft bombs. So from here, basically you're trying to figure out if it does have to be clear, if it poses enough of a risk. So if it is a big enough risk, then they'll say yes, it needs to be removed. And from there, you figure out the best method for, first of all, removing it from the area, and then you figure out transport to a location that's suitable for disposal, and then you have disposal teams on shore.
The overall risk would just be the location, very remote. So if there is any diving accident, it is a long transit back to safety. So if there is a diver accident, you just have to be extremely vigilant in your planning and make sure that everyone's on the same page. So if an incident does occur, that we know the next step in the emergency plan is we're going to hightail it back home to the chamber. I would say the largest risk would be the actual diving portion and not so much the ordnance. It obviously is dangerous and not to be played with, but it's been there for 80 years. So, I mean, that is to be determined as well.
Most of the work is in the preparation because we are being sent up there. We're operating autonomously once we're up there. We had to ensure that we brought all the gear that would sustain the diving operations for the whole time we're there, which is about 10 days. So we did actually bring a recompression chamber with us. We used some gear from some of the units that are in St. John's. They have a reserve unit there. So we borrowed some of their gear for that, which was a huge help. Once we get there, we set up and we have basically everything we need to conduct operations for 10 days.
Honestly, the best experience was just the team that went up there. The camaraderie was amazing. The townspeople were super friendly, accommodating. They welcomed us with open arms, so that was really memorable. But the best experience was I was just a brand new tech off my technician course. I was in charge of chambers, troubleshooting issues with that, and then as well as I was a new supervisor, so I got to test out my supervising skills in an operational setting. That experience coupled with the great diving it was memorable. It was probably one of the best experiences so far.
Those stories are so ingrained in the history of that part of Newfoundland. They provided the immediate response to the shipwrecks. And so there's some amazing stories coming out of there, of the efforts that the locals put in to rescue the crew, pulling them up the cliff faces in the middle of a winter storm. Yeah, that story is pretty ingrained in their history, and so all the locals there either are related to someone who helped or know someone who helped, and they all have kind of their own story and kind of angle on it. So yeah, and they're more than happy to share it, and so that was a very interesting part of the trip.